Most challenging part at Southwick would obviously be the deep sand. It's the one race a year where you're dealing with those conditions. We deal with either hot weather or it rains there. So very challenging mentally and physically. I'd say the biggest thing is physically, just because of how much it wears your body down. So Southwick is one of those races you circle on the list and you make sure you're ready for it.
The most challenging part of Southwick is just making it through the moto period, and it wears on you. It wears on your body, so you gotta be fit and you gotta be ready for that one.
Lucas Oil Pro Motocross heads to probably the most unique track of the 12 circuits that it visits throughout the year. So we'll preview that. Jason Weigandt and the greatest of all time, 15-time champion Ricky Carmichael here. We can talk about riders and stars and points and standings, but first let's just talk about Southwick and what this track in Massachusetts is all about, RC.
Well, this is where the strong survive. As you know, incredibly tough racetrack, not only physically, mentally as well, especially if it's hot. This track always gets rough. It's the sandiest track, I think, that we have on the circuit, and perhaps one in the world. But it is brutal. And not only that, it's really tough on the motorcycles as well. I think bike preservation is huge. So a lot of moving parts going into Southwick. I haven't been there in a long time, so I'm looking forward to going. But nevertheless, only the strong survive there, and we're going to see who is who when it comes to fitness.
And one of the funny things when you go to this place, it's a lot more compact than most motocross tracks. You can't always tell on TV, but trust me, when you're watching one lane of the track, the other one is right next to it. The fans are right on top of it, and these are rabid New England types. They usually have their favorites. They have riders they love. They have riders they hate. And late in these motos, man, if it gets exciting, the atmosphere gets pretty wild at this track if we have a close race.
Oh, yeah, the fans, to your point, they are absolutely incredible there. I mean, they are loyal. I mean, they'll give you the business if they don't like you. They're harsh. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. You have no wiggle room with the fans at Southwick, but that's what makes it so fun. And for me personally, not only from the fans' perspective, but you think about all the great races that have gone through there over the years, and all the great battles. And I just really like how it puts the riders to the test physically and puts the bikes to the test physically as well. You can really it separates a lot of the guys that you think are contenders and that maybe aren't. So these guys got their hands full this weekend, and this series this year has been absolutely incredible. You'd really never know who's going to win, especially on the 450, 250. Yeah, a little bit. It's great to see Joe up there, but yeah, switching back gears, Jason, to the 450. It's been a lot of fun. It surely has, and still a lot of racing left. But at the end of the day, it's been a lot of fun to watch and be a part of.
It has, but you mentioned what a true test this is, and we need that test right now, because as great as the 450 division has been, we had 4 winners in the first 4 rounds. Eli Tomac, who is established as it gets, is 3-time champion of this class already. He's won the last 2. He's won the last 3 motos in a row. And the only rider that's really keeping him in sight right now is Chase Sexton. Sexton's still the points leader because Tomac had a bad race at round 1. But are we seeing the 2-rider breakaway? This is going to be a test if you're Ken Roczen, Jason Anderson, Ryan Dungey, somebody like that, to get back in there, because those two, it looks like they're starting to separate themselves.
Yeah, they are. I really believe that. And no disrespect to Jason Anderson or Ken Roczen, Ryan Dungey, those guys, but it is clear at this point, and the points reflect that Eli Tomac and Chase Sexton have established themselves as the front runners for this championship. If you're Ken Roczen or you're Jason Anderson, you want to contend for this championship, you got to start, and they know this, you have to start winning motos. You can't in 2 motos and winning some overalls. You can't just go 1 moto win and then get a 4th. So the pressure from a championship point of view is really on those 2 guys, but then like to move up in the championship. But then you go to Chase Sexton and Eli Tomac. And I personally feel the pendulum has swung. And I think that Eli Tomac right now has the momentum, even as well as Chase Sexton has been doing all season. But now he's starting to get some momentum, and we all know what he's capable of and the streaks that he is capable of going on. Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championship. So I think it's up to Chase Sexton now to try to stop Eli Tomac. I truly believe that. It's going to be tough. But at the end of the day, it's going to be fun for guys like you and I to watch in the booth, because it's going to bring the best out of the guys. And, at a moment, I try to step back because Eli Tomac has so much experience compared to Chase Sexton. And we know Chase Sexton is eventually going to be, premier class champion in Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championship. But it's going to be tough for him. And if he's able to fight Eli Tomac off and keep Eli honest, he is going to gain so much experience from a championship point of view and being there week in, week out, withstanding that pressure from a multi-time champion, one of the greats for sure that'll be in the Hall of Fame. That's what he's going to have to do. He has to rise to the occasion every single weekend because I don't see Eli giving up many points.
Yeah, that's where I am with it. I almost feel like Sexton is in that weathering the storm. It's almost like when you're watching a basketball game and the team is just going to go on a run and you just got to minimize the damage because, first of all, these are great tracks for Tomac. He has been phenomenal at Southwick throughout his career. Sexton has been saying sand is not necessarily his specialty. So easily Tomac could leave here with 3 wins in a row. And then if you're Sexton, do you get down in the dumps and say to yourself, okay, the guy's got my number, the momentum has switched? Or can you weather that storm and you get to tracks that are better for you? And then twofold, okay, Tomac has had a few inconsistency problems in his career. But when we say Tomac's inconsistent, we mean a random moto where he gets 5th. The chances that he's going to crash it away, throw it away, and hand huge points over are pretty rare. He's not really done that much in his career. As for Sexton, we've seen both sides. He's been incredibly consistent this year. He's been first and second in every moto this year except one. We got a 4th, so that's fine. But in past years, he has had problems with big crashes and then handing over piles of points. So Tomac's putting the press on him on both sides. On certain tracks, it's going to be hard to go as fast as Eli, but overall, it's also going to be hard to be as consistent as Eli. So that is the true test. I got to wonder, when you get to that situation, how do you not drill down too deep and take each individual moto as it's over. He beat me straight up in this moto. It's ruined my season. How do you play the big picture? You didn't get beat too much, but it happened a handful of times.
Yeah.
When it happened, how do you not think my world is crashing down? Because Tomac's rolling and Sexton's got to weather that.
Well, you go back to RedBud last weekend, and if I'm Chase Sexton, I'm like, listen, man, I truly believe he had the speed. I think he was just as fast as Eli Tomac, but Chase Sexton was getting subpar starts. And when Eli Tomac is riding well and he's getting great starts, he just couldn't lose that track position. He was just losing so much time, and then he got caught up in other people's issues. So you take the positives. He rode really well. And he just got subpar starts. And when you get bad starts, you subject yourself to other people's issues and misfortune. So you take the positives. That's what you do. Now, if you're Eli Tomac, and like you alluded to, he's given up a lot of points in the past, but you go back to Supercross this year, and then even this year, other than the first round, he's been pretty rock solid. So I don't think he is the Eli Tomac of old, where he'd cough up, a 10th place or 6th place. I just don't see that happening, just because of what history has shown me thus far this year on this new Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing machine. He is just rock solid. He gets great starts. So you keep the pressure on. And both of those guys know it. I'm sure Eli is sitting there saying, hey, I know if I apply the pressure on Chase Sexton, he's going to buckle, he's going to crash. He's been prone to do that. And if you're Chase Sexton, you're thinking, hey, I'm new and improved. What was that? I can't remember where it was when he laid the bike down. Oh, yeah, it was Thunder Valley. And he says he was done making silly mistakes. Well, he hasn't really made any silly mistakes. He got back. He didn't get great starts in RedBud, but he still rode well. So that's what you're doing. They're at a pivotal time of the series. We talked about it a little bit on the broadcast, and it's time to not cough up any points. You got to be there week in, week out, and you really have to execute the starts. If Eli Tomac is going to be top 3 on starts, well, then Chase Sexton needs to be top 3 on starts. And that's where you really have to pinpoint it, I believe. If I'm coaching any of those guys, that's what I'm telling them. You have to be close to your competitor off the start, and then may the best man win.
Yeah, because even if by the end of the races it's those two primarily, they went 1-1, 2-2 at RedBud, there's just enough talent. We already mentioned Roxon and Anderson. A couple other guys jumping back in. Max Anstey's back into the series, rider from England. He was fast last week. Ryan Dungey's still in there. Christian Craig. There's just enough where if you start 6th or 7th, passing those 5 guys to get to the leader is going to be hard, but it makes it fun for us to watch. Real quick, while we have time, we'll talk 250 class. It has been dominated by the Lawrence brothers, Jet and Hunter, all year. Finally, a crack in the armor, not from the riding perspective, but the bike broke for Jet, so his win streak is over. And look, if you got bike problems at RedBud, Southwick's not going to be any easier on motorcycles. So we'll have to see how this plays out this weekend, but it's definitely a talking point.
Yeah, I feel like, definitely a switch in the momentum at RedBud. I feel like that HRC Honda team, they'll figure it out. They'll make some adjustments to get some more reliability out of those engines. I don't foresee that being a problem. Hey, man, these things are motorcycles. They are, they ask a lot out of them, the engines and the performance of them. Things are going to happen. Right. And unfortunately, it happened to Jet, which is crazy because both Jet and Hunter, they ride the motorcycle in the perfect part of the power range. And as they do that, I don't feel like it puts a lot of strain on the engine. So I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more as to exactly what happened and why it malfunctioned. But I think if you're Jet and Hunter, for both cases from a points perspective, you got to take guys and advantage of guys like Joe Shimoda and use them to your advantage. So an example of that would be if Hunter is in second and Joe is in first, it's crucial in my mind that if you're Hunter, you've got to get by Joe to get someone in behind you and you're in between you and your brother, and vice versa now because Jet's playing catch up from the DNF is. If you're in that scenario and someone's in front of you, you got to get those guys in between you and your brother Hunter to help the points situation out. So that's what I'm going to be looking for those guys. Clearly, they're still at the top of the spot as far as points go. Great to see Joe Shimoda coming in there. Maybe he's going to catch some late season stride and run up front the rest of the year. That'd be great. And there's still some younger guys that have an opportunity to get in there and mix it up. If you're Hunter and you're Jet, you got to use those guys to your advantage from a point situation.
Yeah, Joe was right there in the battle with the Lawrence brothers before Jet's bike broke. So he's going fast. He could definitely be a factor. That'll be the 250 class at Southwick. But the big show